Shalom, shalom, shalom. Shalom Aleichem. Peace be on you. Yes, Yisrael, Yehonathan Dah. We with you here humbly so on what they call the 23rd of April, 2023 of the year of their Lord. That is a house united by people and songs. If I sound good, you got to give Chris, my man, the credit. If I sound bad, that's on me. So, today's topic is a house divided can't stand. That's what Yahweh Shua said. Let me see if I can say it in Ibari. Be'it mikola lo ekoli lemod. Be'it mikola lo ekoli lemod. House divided can't stand. It can't. And we do know that's what we see a lot now. Go to social media, you see that we are much divided. Nevertheless, let's go in and, because I know that time goes by so fast. Let's review or follow up on what last week when we talked about ministering women. Now, remember everything in the so-called Old Testament, because then during the time, boots on the ground, there was no New Testament. Everything they read and knew came from what we call the Old Testament. So we got to remember that. And Yahweh Shua says, cue the first one up, Chris. This is what Yahweh Shua says about what we call the Old Testament. Go ahead.
The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from your midst, from your brethren. Him you shall hear, according to all you desired of the Lord your God in Horeb, in the day of the assembly, saying, Let me not hear again the voice of the Lord my God, nor let me see this great fire any more, lest I die. And the Lord said to me, What they have spoken is good. I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their brethren, and will put my words in his mouth. And he shall speak to them all that I command him. And it shall be that whoever will not hear my words, which he speaks in my name, I will require it of him. But the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet shall die.
Okay, so that was Deuteronomy 18, verses 15 through 19. Moshe saying, listen, there's going to be a prophet from among you. He's greater than me. He's going to teach you all of this. So this is key. What we got in Yahweh Shua is Moshe 2.0. You had Moshe, okay, and then you have now the teacher of Moshe. And he said, remember, the reason why you're getting all this written down is because you said out of your mouth, you don't want to hear Yahweh talking from this Mount Sinai. We said that ourselves. We were afraid we were going to die. So that's why everything came through Moshe. That was not the original plan. Yahweh was going to marry us. And we said, no, we ain't ready. And then we got all these, then we kept on sinning. We got all those commandments in the desert of disobedience. So now we're here in the New Testament era in this B'mi'elotah series, and it's Yahweh Shua coming now in his own words to teach us the Torah. Now, so let's so that he said that's going to be prophet. Now let's talk about what I said about how everything from the so-called Old Testament testifies to Yahweh Shua. If there's something you don't understand in the so-called Old Testament, that is a learning gap on your part, because what fits in that gap is Yahweh Shua. Chris, cue up number 2.
Now behold, 2 of them were traveling that same day to a village called Emmaus, which was 7 miles from Jerusalem. And they talked together of all these things which had happened. So it was, while they conversed and reasoned, that Jesus himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes were restrained, so that they did not know him. And he said to them,
"What kind of conversation is this that you have with one another as you walk and are sad?"
Then the one whose name was Cleopas answered,
Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem? And have you not known the things which happened there in these days?
"What things?"
The things concerning Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how the chief priests and our rulers delivered him to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we were hoping that it was he who was going to redeem Israel. Indeed, besides all this, today is the 3rd day since these things happened. Yes, and certain women of our company who arrived at the tomb early astonished us. When they did not find his body, they came saying that they had also seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. And certain of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said. But him they did not see.
O foolish ones, and slow of heart to believe in all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not the Christ to have suffered these things and to enter into his glory?"
and beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself.
Okay, that narrative comes from Luke 24, verses 13 to 27. This is after the two Marys witnessed the empty tomb, and then Peter and John ran in and witnessed the empty tomb with the bloody cloth. We learned about that. And after Yahweh waved himself as the wave sheaf offering, and it says it was on the 3rd day. And they walked on the road. And this is two of the, not the official 12 disciples. This is 2 others. One of them, by the way, was Yahweh's uncle. And this along the road of Emmaus, they were leaving Jerusalem, and he met them. He appeared to them, and they spoke on to the evening. And then he broke bread and all that stuff. And what did he say? Foolish. Didn't you understand that everything from Moses, he taught them about himself from Moshe and the prophets. Now, if you were boots on the ground at that time, the Pentateuch, which people call that, the 5 books of Moses, the first 5 books of the Bible, that could be their Old Testament. Then the prophets will be their New Testament, which speaks to Moshe. So he's saying all of that spoke about this man, the Mashiach. You're sad down in the mouth when now he died. That is what the book said. What everybody wanted was they wanted the Mashiach the way they wanted him. In their box mind, come down and kick Roman butt. Get us up out of under here. We paying tax to them. That is not how it's supposed to happen. Y'all be sure. And see, they knew. Didn't they know the Torah? They had the teachers teaching them. They knew the Torah, but they did not have the understanding of it. And to this day, in the 23rd of April, 2023, of the year of their Lord, I'm still here trying to teach the basics of this Torah, which is not the 666 commandments of Moshe, the blood and stone, as they still were trying to do. Even after the resurrection, they still didn't get it. He said, what did Yahweh say out of his mouth? You're slow. You're so numb and slow of understanding, he said. This is how it's supposed to happen. Now, all your access to Yahweh is through me. So, this reminds me, really, of someone else said this, and they're correct. This thing where their eyes were not open was like when Yusuf was betrayed by his brothers. Now here they are coming to Misraim because they need food because all the land was there was famine in the land. They see their brother time and time again, not knowing this is the brother they betrayed years before. And then finally, at the appointed time, their eyes were opened. And what does Yusuf represent? His sons were Ephraim and Manasseh. Ephraim and Manasseh are the ones who are part of the 10 northern tribes, representing the 10 northern tribes of the diaspora, of which we are right now to this day. Doesn't mean there aren't no Yehuda over here, but for the most part, Yehuda spread throughout the so-called land of Africa. Ephraim and Manasseh, representing all of the other tribes, went throughout the whole world. And isn't it very fitting that the house, here we are divided now, is not recognizing Yahushua? Isn't that very fitting? To this day, not recognizing him, you wake up and automatically you buy seats. You want another wife. You fighting and arguing over different calendars to keep and all this kind of stuff. All wrong. All wrong. Now, I tell you, last week I gotta admit to you, I was a little downhearted with went from 72 views on YouTube down to 22 last week. I thought it'd be even better when we're honoring the women and how beautiful it was the women's role in Yahushua's heart, and how he empowers the woman, and how he recognizes the woman and he lifts up, and how the women really was leading the charge in understanding what I'm saying right now. It is the women who led the charge. And I gave three huge types of Yahushua from the so-called Old Testament, from Moses. 3 examples of types of Yahushua. When he came, he is the anti-type, and he fulfilled those 3 examples. I'm going to review them now today. And they are heartwarming and touching and eye-opening. And I'm surprised we didn't get more views. But go ahead, Chris, cue up this one. Is the law of the accused bride, Deuteronomy 22, 13 to 21, where Yahushua, this is the type of Yahushua who is falsely accused as an adulterous bride, and he fulfills that, of course, because he was innocent, because he resurrected him, he showed the. But go ahead, cue it up, Chris.
If any man takes a wife and goes into her and detests her and charges her with shameful conduct and brings a bad name on her and says, I took this woman, and when I came to her I found she was not a virgin, then the father and mother of the young woman shall take and bring out the evidence of the young woman's virginity to the elders of the city at the gate. And the young woman's father shall say to the elders, I gave my daughter to this man as wife, and he detests her. Now he has charged her with shameful conduct, saying, I found your daughter was not a virgin, and yet these are the evidences of my daughter's virginity. And they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city. Then the elders of that city shall take that man and punish him. And they shall fine him 100 shekels of silver, and give them to the father of the young woman, because he has brought a bad name on a virgin of Israel.
You can cut it right there.
And
I'm going to go ahead and cut it short because we did the whole thing at least twice. But that is the type of Yahushua, and the antitype is in John 24 through 7. As a matter of fact, this narrative of Yahushua coming up and displaying the evidence of his innocence with the bloody cloth is also, I think, is in Mark for a second witness. Look at the 4 Gospels at the end when he resurrects. You'll see, I referenced John 24 through 7 when Yahushua displayed the bloody cloth as evidence of his innocence. But also, there's in a couple other other Gospels as well. So I thought that was touching. You see that Yahushua is the antitype of that. And remember, you opened up with Deuteronomy 18, 15 to 19, with Moshe said, I'm going to send you a prophet like me. Then in Luke 24, 13 to 27, Yahushua said, you're slow of hearing, slow of understanding. That these things spoke to me, and that these things must had to happen, of how he was bloodied up. This is deep stuff I'm giving you. And a brother can't get more than 22 people looking at the channel? Where else are you getting this kind of insight? Let's give you another type. This is Deuteronomy 22. This is just a few verses behind that one. Verses 23 and 24, where if a woman is raped in a city and she has to cry out, and that proves her innocence. If she doesn't cry out, she's not innocent. I mean, she was just going along with it. So go and cue it up, my man.
If a young woman who is a virgin is betrothed to a husband, and a man finds her in the city and lies with her, then you shall bring them both out to the gate of that city, and you shall stone them to death with stones. The young woman, because she did not cry out in the city, and the man, because he humbled his neighbor's wife. So you shall put away the evil from among you.
Indeed, Yahushua did cry out, Azab Tani, Yekti Yahu Eliyahu Shali Elahu Shali Lama. My mighty one, why have you forsaken me? Why have you forsaken the unity of Yah? And he goes on. You can read in Psalm 22 the narrative of what Yahushua said on the tree while he was in agony and pain. And he did cry out, and he was innocent. This is a type. Remember, everything speaks of him. Is Yahushua really a goat? No. Is he really a lamb? No. Is he really a rock? No. But all these things are types of him. Is he really a dove? Is he really a fish? I mean, all these things speak. Is he really bread? Walking? Is he bread on legs with a beard? No. All these things are types. And they did not understand it. Please don't you here 2,300 years later still be dull of understanding? There's no excuse for you today not to understand this. None! You should get this. You should get how intimate Yahushua is with us. You should fall in love with this man, of how he dotted every I and crossed every T for us. He juxtaposed himself for us. We're supposed to be the ones getting all this. And indeed, and I gave you a reference, Secrets of Golgotha by Ernest L. Martin, for more detail on how Yahushua indeed was stoned on that tree. Because the Romans said this man didn't do anything wrong. He didn't violate any of their laws. That's your laws, he said. So you go ahead and judge him according to your law. They strung him up because we begged him to. Our leaders did. And then they said, our leaders, let his blood be on their children. Well, you know what? Their word is going to be honored. Their word is going to be honored. Cue up the third, Chris, type of Yahushua. This is the ordinance of the adulterous wife in Numbers 5:11-31.
Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, if any man's wife goes astray, and behaves unfaithfully toward him, and a man lies with her carnally, and it is hidden from the eyes of her husband, and it is concealed that she has defiled herself, and there was no witness against her, nor was she caught, if the spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he becomes jealous of his wife who has defiled herself, or if the spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he becomes jealous of his wife, although she has not defiled herself, then the man shall bring his wife to the priest.
All right, pause.
He shall bring the offering.
So here's the scenario. We got a man who thinks his wife may be cheating. Don't have proof, but he thinks it. And there ain't no Jerry Springer to do on the show for them to sit down and argue this out. Go ahead.
He shall bring the offering required for her, 1/10 of an ephah of barley meal. He shall pour no oil on it, and put no frankincense on it, because it is a grain offering of jealousy, an offering for remembering, for bringing iniquity to remembrance. And the priest shall bring her near, and set her before the Lord. The priest shall take holy water in an earthen vessel, and take some of the dust that is on the floor of the tabernacle, and put it into the water. Then the priest shall stand the woman before the Lord, uncover the woman's head, and put the offering for remembering in her hands, which is the grain offering of jealousy. And the priest shall have in his hand the bitter water that brings a curse. And the priest shall put her under oath, and say to the woman, if no man has lain with you, and if you have not gone astray to uncleanness while under your husband's authority, be free from this bitter water that brings a curse.
So she's going to drink some concoction that the priest put up. This is high level stuff. This is CSI. What's that? Forensics. This is old school forensics before forensics came out. And Yahweh sure drank that bitter cup. He drank it innocently. And this is deep. This is so deep. I go in detail in my second book with that, line by line, how he met all of this. This requires a whole hour by itself. This one right here. It's deep. And it goes into something else I didn't really go into about how David was born and the circumstances King David was born in. This is deep. Deep. Go ahead, brother.
But if you have gone astray while under your husband's authority, and if you have defiled yourself, and some man other than your husband has lain with you, then the priest shall put the woman under the oath of the curse, and he shall say to the woman, the Lord make you a curse and an oath among your people, when the Lord makes your thigh rot and your belly swell. And may this water that causes the curse go into your stomach, and make your belly swell, and your thigh rot. Then the woman shall say, Amen, so be it.
You're looking at a picture of what actually happened to Yahweh Shua on that tree, when his belly was swelling up and distended like a pregnant person, and his legs were rotting out his loins, where he could no longer lift up to breathe, because drinking the poison that we are supposed to drink. All right, go ahead.
Then the priest shall write these curses in a book, and he shall scrape them off into the bitter water. And he shall make the woman drink the bitter water that brings a curse, and the water that brings the curse shall end.
This is what Yahweh Shua was going to implement in the temple when the woman was brought in for adultery by her husband, that one of those men was, and other men gangbanging her and saying they caught her in the act and said, what you going to do about this? She should be stoned, which is not true. Yahweh Shua didn't even answer them. He just bent down and started writing. He was going to go and institute this right here to see, okay, if she did all that, it's going to show out. And you know how the story ended. They all walked out. Go ahead, brother.
To become bitter. Then the priest shall take the grain offering of jealousy from the woman's hand, shall wave the offering before the Lord, and bring it to the altar. And the priest shall take a handful of the offering as its memorial portion, burn it on the altar, and afterward make the woman drink the water.
Okay, go with that. I'm going to be, in the sense of time, because this is still from last week, I'm not going to finish that, but we see Yahweh Shua went through this, and his was even, if this is not touching enough, you know, the woman can actually present herself to her husband or act around the house as if she did cheat on him when she didn't. If the husband's no longer leaving with her, you know they had all these multiple wives, and she can go ahead and pretend that she is cheating on him by her actions and cause him to invoke this, and then when she is found innocent, then he's got to return sleeping with her, and she will have children, and she was innocent, of course, she will have even more children. How beautiful is that? This is the circumstance that David was born under. But here's even deeper. Yahweh Shua was indeed innocent, and what did he birth? All of us. I'm telling you. Are you getting it? So I want to move on, because that is just awesome, and I wish you women would support, subscribe, like, share. Let's I quoted last week 1 Peter 3:7. We know that the woman, let's go ahead and read 1 Peter 3:7, and it says, husbands, likewise live with them, talking about the wives, as will understand and give honor to the wife as to the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers may not be hindered. Yahweh Shua saying, if you don't treat your wife right, you might as well stop praying to me. Don't even, because I ain't going to hear it. And here's the thing. People talk about how the Bible is chauvinistic, male chauvinist. Man. No, I'm just giving you some tenderness of his heart towards women. He's always been endearing to the women. And that's why they're the ones who supported the ministry. And they're the first ones to teach the Besor, or spread the Besor. And they're the first ones to follow him. And they're the first ones to get the clue that he is Moshe 2.0. Where y'all still stuck in blood and stone and trying to have multiple wives. The women got the clue. And they're the ones who loved him, anointed him, and followed him, and cried for him. And they were the ones who remained at the tree of his death. The Hebrew word for weak is rak. That means tender. So treat her with tenderness, loving kindness, and pray for her. And we have to guide them into the understanding of this Torah. In order to do that, we have to know it. Wow. Let's show you this is just a few examples, because I know I have only an hour, of the women's response to this man who empowers them. Cue up, this is going to be Mark 14, 3 through 9.
And being in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at the table, a woman came having an alabaster flask of very costly oil of spikenard. Then she broke the flask and poured it on his head. But there were some who were indignant among themselves.
Why was this fragrant oil wasted? For it might have been sold for more than 300 denarii and given to the poor.
And they criticized her sharply.
Let her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has done a good work for me. For you have the poor with you always. And whenever you wish, you may do them good. But me you do not have always. She has done what she could. She has come beforehand to anoint my body for burial. Assuredly, I say to you, wherever this gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be told as a memorial to her.
Yahweh says, here are the men chastised her. And it says sharply. Same way they did with the children. When the children kind of tried to come to Yahweh's knee, chastise the children. That's what the men did. The men who have failed the entire world with wars and diseases and their creations and inventions. And chastise one time, she wasted her oil on the feet of the man who created them. That was a waste. Oh, we could have used it for the poor. Oh, you know what? You can give every last dollar of your whole salary for the whole year to the poor, and you mean no, not going to be any more poor people in the world, even in the city you live in? Waste? No, what's a waste is your breath, and your heart and your brain is a waste. That's what's the waste. Not understanding this man and who he is. But she got the understanding, and y'all just see her as a hoe. But Yahweh said out of his mouth that whenever this Besor is spoken of him, they're going to talk about her. And what am I doing right now? Talking about her. Another example of a response that the women have to this man who they see as the only man who's not trying to use them. Here's Luke 7, 36 to 50. That's the one. Luke 7, 36 to 50. Cue it up.
Then one of the Pharisees asked him to eat with him. And he went to the Pharisee's house and sat down to eat. And behold, a woman in the city who was a sinner, when she knew that Jesus sat at the table in the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster flask of fragrant oil, and stood at his feet behind him weeping. And she began to wash his feet with her tears, and wiped them with the hair of her head. And she kissed his feet, and anointed them with the fragrant oil. Now when the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he spoke to himself,
This man, if he were a prophet, would know who and what manner of woman this is who is touching him, for she is a sinner.
Simon, I have something to say to you.
Teacher, say it.
There was a certain creditor who had two debtors. One owed 500 denarii, and the other 50. And when they had nothing with which to repay, he freely forgave them both. Tell me, therefore, Which of them will love him more?
I suppose the one whom he forgave more.
You have rightly judged.
All right, in the essence of time, I want to go ahead and cut that short. But we see here, once again, these women always been identified by what they do lying on their back. Not by their names, but what they do. And not seeing their own stench and their role in it. And he says, wait a minute. This one understands who I am. I mean, you invite me in and didn't do jack for me. You put food here because you want to look good that you got the most popular man in all of Israel in your house. That's why you got me here. Because it's like you had Michael Jackson coming over, whoever, I don't know who's popular. I don't know, Jackson dead. Anybody popular right now?
Janet Jackson.
If I had Janet Jackson over my house, visiting my wife and we, of course I would talk about that. Janet Jackson came by my house. You know, so you just brag about that. But he's over his house. He didn't do nothing. But this woman recognized who he is. And she gave her all in her heart. And this woman said, not only is he kind to us, but he forgives sins. That means all that dirt that's been done to them, they've been part of, they are forgiven. How happy would you be right now if you knew all your cars and your house and everything, all your debt you had was forgiven? How elated would you be? Would you be, and you saw the man away who did it? How would you feel about that man then? That this man got rid of all your debts. Would you be praising that man, crying over the man, anointing him? But yet the man do not recognize that their debts are forgiven if they receive this man, understand this man. It's us that are slow. One more example. And I'm going to have to go through the whole. This is Hosea 3. Hosea's name means salvation. The whole prophecy of Hosea was about receiving the whore. He's married to one who keeps on committing harlotry while married to him. And that represents us. Since you want to be all chest out, laving out, nose all up, calling women whores, this narrative says that Yisrael, us, we are the hoes. But what does Yahweh Shua do in response to us? Go ahead and cue it up, brother.
Then the Lord said to me,
Go again. Love a woman who is loved by a lover and is committing adultery, just like the love of the Lord for the children of Israel who look to other gods and love the raisin cakes of the pagans.
So I bought her for myself for 15 shekels of silver and 1½ homers of barley. And I said to her, You shall stay with me many days. You shall not play the harlot, nor shall you have a man. So too will I be toward you. For the children of Israel shall abide many days without king or prince, without sacrifice or sacred pillar, without ephod or teraphim. Afterward, the children of Israel shall return and seek the Lord their God and David their king. They shall fear the Lord and his goodness in the latter days.
Wow. Listen, that's the 3rd chapter of Hosea. It's only 5 verses. Read it. If you ever get proud, read that so you can get humbled, because it says you are a hoe. And what is Yahweh Shua's response to your whoredom? Receiving you back in gentleness and kindness and love, cleaning your stank, nasty, cracked up, cleaning you up, forgiving you your sins. If you return to him and come back, and here we are now, he says we're going to spend a whole lot of time without a king, without a prophet, and we did in the transatlantic slave trade. 2,000 years was nothing. No one to save us, no one to come there for us while we were being strung up on trees in our harlotry. There's no way in the world a white man can come down in our land. And this is what we're going to, this topic today is a house divided can't stand. So in our own home, white man coming to our home and all that heat and junglage and take you out of your house. Can you imagine somebody coming to your house, kick your door, take you out, and just take you somewhere else and tell you speak this language and worship that God? That's what happened to us in our harlotry. Humble yourselves. Realize why you over here now in Babylon speaking English. Yet you're on social media divided, fighting one another. Instead of turning to Shuva, to Yahweh Shua, and humble yourself and realize that He is the way back to Him. And you guess who we're playing the harder. This is going. I'm telling you, you're not going to hear this. You haven't heard this anywhere else. Who are we playing the harlot with? Who are we doing it with? Moshe. Yahweh says, my name is jealous. He's jealous because what we're doing is saying, Yahweh Shua, get up off the mercy seat. We don't want your grace. We want Moses. We're playing the whore with Moses. Get off. Let's go into the mercy seat. Take the commandments out there. We want that. That's what you're saying. You want the old covenant blood and stone. You don't want the water of grace with Yahweh Shua. So we're playing the harlot with Moses against Yahweh Shua. Wow. Isn't that deep? And that is what is going to be the great deception in this latter day. This is why I'm doing the Bemilotah series right now in his own words. Where Yahweh Shua comes down, I gave the example like we are the colony of ants. Yahweh Shua becomes an ant like us, but still maintaining his same intelligent mind as a person to come down here so he can communicate with us to teach us the way to salvation. Because if he remained on the throne as who he is, we could not hear him or understand him. And we will all die. He had to come down here and be like us. And after doing that, we still here now, 2023, not understanding this basic thing. Yahweh, please help me get this through to your elect. So indeed, we're going to go into Bi Micholach Lo Echoli Lomod. House divided can't stand. So we're going to, this narrative is Matthew 12, 22 to 30, when, once again, the leaders, not recognizing Yahushua for who he is, he's out here doing miracles, great things, and they're going to attribute it to the devil, contribute it to the accuser, attribute it to the enemy. Instead of giving the man his props and his credit, they're going to give to someone else. Cue it up, my brother.
Then one was brought to him who was demon-possessed, blind and mute, and he healed him, so that the blind and mute man both spoke and saw, and all the multitudes were amazed.
Could this be the son of David?
Now when the Pharisees heard it, they said,
This fellow does not cast out demons except by Beelzebub, the ruler of the demons.
but Jesus knew their thoughts.
Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. And every city or house divided against itself will not stand. If Satan casts out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then will his kingdom stand? And if I cast out demons by Beelzebub, by whom do your sons cast them out? Therefore, they shall be your judges. But if I cast out demons by the Spirit of God, surely the kingdom of God has come upon you. Or how can one enter a strong man's house and plunder his goods, unless he first binds the strong man, and then he will plunder his house? He who is not with me is against me, and he who does not gather with me scatters abroad.
Wow. I'm telling you, that's why I'm so glad. I'm so glad it was Yahweh Shua. Because if that was me, I'm like, what? I'm doing all this, and you're going to give the enemy the credit? Man, I would have had them slain right then and there. I know. Not only you name calling, you call him the king of the, you call him the Lord of the Flies. So, blasphemy to the highest. To the highest. Matter of fact, that is going to be the lesson for next week. I might go into a little bit today if I have time. It's about blasphemy. Because you're attributing, you're calling Tob good, Ra evil. You're calling what is good evil. These are the leaders. These are the teachers of the law. Are you hearing this? The teachers of the law are looking at a man doing Tob good works, miracles, and calling it evil. These are your teachers. This is like your teacher saying 1 + 1 = 11. And you better get it right. What? What they have is, see, the thing about why they call him Beelzebub, flies have no kingdom. Flies have no order. They have no organization. Flies, when they come out as maggots, the female fly lays them in some kind of meat or whatever they can eat when they come out, because it's on their own. She drops those larvae in whatever they can eat and flies off on her own. They come out as maggots and eat whatever they on, and then they become little flies and fly out. They don't answer to anyone. They don't have any responsibility. Any other fly, they have no order. They're not like hornets or bees or ants or any other kind of insect that has some kind of order and construction. Flies are lawless, and they're filthy. They live off of dead stuff, and they are unruly. So they calling Yahweh Shua the Lord of all of them, of unruliness, of something that subsists on death, that subsists on nastiness, something that has no value, and that he himself is without law. This is what they're saying, that he is without law. Because flies don't have no law. They don't go by any order like other insects do. That's not how they operate. And they say he's the Lord of them. I brought the example of the old movie. It was done twice. And I read the book. It was so inspiring, so much depth, pregnant with knowledge. The book Lord of the Flies. And there's 2 movies, Lord of the Flies, where these rich kids their plane crashes them on an island, and the pilot dies. So now they're on a deserted island. All these rich kids, like 13, 14, on down to like 10, on an island by themselves. So they have to have some kind of government ruling, and it's called Lord of the Flies because they just become unruly. There's no way. They just can't govern themselves. It's a great movie. Check it out, man, if you get a chance. It's old, but huh? Oh, you saw the movie? Oh, and you read the book. And my brother said, "Listen, I got knowledge over here." I stand corrected, huh?
They made us read it in school.
Yes, I was made to read school, and you're right. And I was glad. Pregnant with stuff. It shows that really, without higher guidance, we can't govern ourselves. Absolutely. We can't govern ourselves. And then one of the aberrants, they killed these pigs and they put them on a stick, and then flies eat up the pig. The flies eat up the dead head. It has a lot of message in it. They're saying Yahweh Shua is the Lord of the Flies, Beelzebub. Can you believe that? And he's doing good works. And this is the leaders of Yisrael. And to this day, they're doing the same thing. Lawlessness. And yet, if it was true, how could the house stand? How can there be strength when everyone is fighting against one another? Why would he do that? Then he says, well, then if I'm casting out demons by Beelzebub, who are your fathers casting them out by then? Those who want to be your judges. Because they killed all the prophets and the priests. All the prophets. They killed them all. And they killed all the disciples. And then they want to put up a memorial after they kill them. And they still do to this day. Maryland Lynching Project. Who I'm trying to get Will Schwartz on the air here. Promised me an interview years ago and never did it. And I just contacted him again a few days ago. So y'all want to go ahead and kill Yahweh's elect and then go and put up and then memorialize them. So thus was going to be your judges. And the record says, do not call good evil and evil good. This man is doing a good work and you call it evil. Then he says, oh, and I love this. This is wolf talking. This is like in the street wolf talking. He's saying, how can a strong man plunder a man's goods? Let me go ahead and get this right. Well, how can one enter a strong man's house and plunder his goods unless he first binds the strong man, and then he will plunder his house. So Yahweh should say, yeah, you strong. How can somebody come in and take your house unless he's stronger? I'm going to come. This is Yahweh Shua talking smack. I'm going to come into your house. You call me Beelzebub? Guess what I'm going to do? He telling you ahead of time. Just like, the ball player say, I'm going to come down here and shoot. I'm going to go down to the left lane and shoot this 3 in your face. And then you go down and then do it. After he done told you, you knew what was going to do it, and he still did it. I'm going to come into your house, bind you up, and take your stuff. That's what I'm going to do. He gave him a taste of it, and this is beautiful. This is beautiful. He gave him a taste of it with Lazarus. He let Lazarus stay dead for not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. 4 days. They said, wait a minute, Master. He's going to be dead and stinking. Yeah, we told you all before when he was sick to come get him. Yahweh Shua took his time, piddling around, waiting around. He said, he waited on purpose for that man to first die. And then not only did he die, to make sure they knew he was dead, waited 4 days, day longer than when he raised himself. Yahweh Shua even came up after 3 days. He let Lazarus stay dead for 4 days. See, what happens is on that 4th day, that's the day of perdition. That's when the body is stank, and rigor mortis sets in. And all that stuff. So Yahweh Shua, what he did was, he's showing the extent of his authority. Like when he healed the women with their issue of blood and all that stuff. When he healed people, he just did more than that. He says, your sins are forgiven. It's not just that I can heal, because the disciples also healed. But they can't forgive sins. See, his followers were also able to heal if they had the gift of healing. But what makes Yahweh Shua who he is and you not him is that he can forgive sins. That means he's not just a good man. He's not just a prophet like the 2 men said on the road to Emos. He's not just, you can be a good man, you could be a prophet, but you can't forgive sins. You can heal the sick. You can feed the poor, release the prisoners. You can even raise people from the dead. Yes, Yahweh Shua gave you power to do that. But you can't forgive sins, because all sins are against Yahweh Shua. They aren't against you. So Yahweh Shua goes into perdition, pulls Lazarus out of perdition when his body rigor mortis stank, and the worms that they say Yahweh Shua was in charge of, and the maggots. Yeah, and the maggot, and he called that man to life. If you remember, we're going to get to that. When he called Lazarus to life after 4 days, that's when those scribes and Pharisees and Sadducees and the elders got together and said, we're going to kill this man. We cannot let this man continue on now. It was when he raised Lazarus from the dead that they said, we are going to, they said they're going to kill this man. And that's what they did. They strongly said, there's no way around it. Instead of believing, this is a heart of stone that cannot turn. You're going to call him Beelzebub. Then who did your fathers raise people from dead with? Who did your fathers do miracles by? That's who's going to be your judges. That's going to be your judges. A house divided cannot stand. Yahweh Shua is the one who divided us at the Tower of Babel. And we have many ministries out here now trying their best to gather everybody, get everybody together. It's not going to happen. He divided us, only he can bring us back. And he's going to bring us back together again at the appointed time. At the appointed time. Before my time was up, let me go to, I haven't quoted from the book, commentary on the New Testament use of the Old Testament. Haven't gone there in a few weeks. About this parable of plundering your house. See, and Yahweh Shua got him. And yes, Hasatan got us with the Portuguese and Italians, and then later the French and America and all the rest of everybody jumped in and plundering our house. going into our homeland, taking us and enslaving us. But Yahweh Shua is going to get the last laugh. Now, again, remember, everything from the New Testament is seeded or rooted and grounded from the Old Testament. This book says the little parable about the plundering of the strong man's house may allude to Isaiah 49:24. And here's what Yeshayah says in Isaiah 49:24. He says, "Can plunder be taken from warriors or captives rescued from tyrants?" So what he's saying then, hey, can the plunderer, can he who's plundered be rescued? Can a tyrant be overcome? And indeed, we're going to find out, yes. Yes, indeed. Yahweh Shua said he's going to make captive us. He's going to turn captivity captive. Those who harmed us harmed the apple of his eye. Here's the thing, though. We are lawfully captives. We were made captives by our enemies because of our disobedience. Not because we were doing what was right. They didn't come into our house. They couldn't have come into our house if we were obedient. They came into our house because we were disobedient. This is how we end up being under the Greek rule and then later the Roman rule. Because of our disobedience. Israel has never been conquered when they were in obedience. Israel has always been plundered, raped, and robbed, and overrun and subjugated when we were in disobedience. So then we got scattered throughout our homeland, and everywhere we went into the world, we continued to play the harlot against Yahweh with Moshe. So we went everywhere we went, continuing with the blood and stone, and we got scattered further and further around, kicked out, easily recognizable because of the laws that we kept. The laws that we were known by, identified by. The whole world knew a Hebrew just walking down the street. You didn't even have to see him, just see his silhouette with those Z-seats flying out. We didn't cut our hair. We had the beards unkempt. We had our special clothing. We didn't mix our clothing. We kept Shabbat. We ate kosher. All these things are fine and wonderful. I do wear my CCs from time to time. You're supposed to keep Shabbat. That has nothing to do with Moshe. It was just Adam and Eve. So we still continue in our harlotry even after being kicked out of our homes. This is how we got raped, robbed, and plundered in disobedience. Disobedience got us to where we are. And now here we are over in Babylon, speaking the language of slavery. A house divided can't stand. Today, are you going to stay divided against your brother? Are you going to stay divided against your sister? Are you going to treat your sisters wrong, the weaker sex? Are you going to raise your children to love Yahweh and to love their neighbor as themselves? Are you going to love your neighbor as yourself? It is his image. We are made after his image. He gave you the example with the Good Samaritan. He gave you the example with the sheep on the right and the goats on the left. The only criteria for being on the right and on the left is by how you treated Yahweh's image. Not about keeping the commandments. They all kept the commandments. Otherwise, then you're lawless. There's no such thing as lawlessness in the kingdom of Yahweh. No such thing. So what we're going to do is, that is the house divided cannot stand. I'm going to do this last feed, and this is going to lead us into next week. Because next week we're going to talk about blasphemy of the Ruach HaKodesh. Because they calling good evil, evil good, and saying that Yahweh should cast out with Beelzebub. So we're going to do Matthew 12:31-37.
Therefore I say to you, every sin and blasphemy will be forgiven men, but the blasphemy against the Spirit will not be forgiven men. Anyone who speaks a word against the Son of Man, it will be forgiven him. But whoever speaks against the Holy Spirit, it will not be forgiven him, either in this age or in the age to come. Either make the tree good and its fruit good, or else make the tree bad and its fruit bad, for a tree is known by its fruit. Brood of vipers, how can you, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good things, and an evil man out of the evil treasure brings forth evil things. But I say to you, that for every idle word men may speak, they will give account of it in the day of judgment. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned.
Man, he's giving it back to them. So we're going to pick up with that. Sure, giving it back to them. How you identify fruit. You don't look for pecans on an apple tree. You don't look for oranges on a fig tree. So I want you to stay tuned for another 30 minutes from now. You got Pastor Davis coming on. Until then, Yehonathan Dawid with you here. Shalom Aleichem. Peace be on you. Pray for the shalom of Yisrael.